Hello and welcome back to the podcast Uncovering Hidden Homicides. I am one of your hosts today. My name is Karen Beggs, and joining me in the studio is retired Detective Sergeant James Brannigan. James, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I was a detective sergeant in the Homicide unit for almost 17 years, covering mostly domestic homicides, and I found myself specialising in hidden homicides. That's where people are trying to conceal the murder they've done, mostly in domestic settings.
So we have now started the investigation, and it just seems like there are a lot of unanswered questions and a lot of things don't make sense. So what do you do next?
It was a matter of trying to get those questions answered. It was extremely difficult. Her goodbye message was from a different IP address. She hasn't left the Moy, but where is she? She doesn't appear to be alive. So another thing we had to do was proof of life inquiries, which is try prove that somebody's not alive, which is extremely arduous process. So you have to contact every police force, UK and Ireland, every prison, every local district and council, hospitals.
Because there's not one centralised system that you can check.
And then because she's a missing person, there was a public appeal. Then there were sightings of Charlotte post her disappearance. So you have to look at all those sightings, and then also every other Charlotte Murray in the UK and Ireland.
All Charlotte Murrays.
All Charlotte Murrays.
Right.
And there's a lot of them. And you had to go and make sure this wasn't Charlotte. So one thing, you had the sightings.
In person, you have to go in person.
Yeah, or you get the local police force to go, and you could rule out like the 90-year-old, the 70, 80-year-old, and people like that you could rule out. But there was one peculiar sighting in Bradford of Charlotte in a newsagent's wearing a burqa, and the individual says, I know Charlotte from being in Moy, and I knew it was Charlotte, but she was wearing, I don't think it was a burqa, he said it was
the hijab.
A hijab, yes.
Yeah.
But they thought this really bizarre. And why this call was made, and it was made from a public phone box. It wasn't made from a mobile phone, which was...
So it could be nothing, or it could be trying to throw you off the scent or something.
It was all the sightings, I felt it was a staged one. Because all the other sightings were normal. The person, oh yeah, I think I saw Charlotte. And you go talk to them. This person was anonymous and in a phone box. And it was all just, I thought...
Weird.
Yeah, very peculiar. So started working on, and I wanted to look at the dating site he was on at 9:30 on the 1st of November, oasis.com. And I looked, they were based in New South Wales. So to get information from people like that, you'll have to go to the PPS, draw up a file, send it to the PPS. The PPS will then do an international letter request to the foreign jurisdiction to ask the foreign jurisdiction to go to this company. It can take ages. So I said, I'll just ring the police. So rang the police in New South Wales, got talking to this detective sergeant. I explained this story to him. I said, you have this company. I gave him the registered company. I said, I need to find out the following information. And left it with him, gave him all the details of when he'd logged on. And everyone was a very nice guy. Michael was his name, and so extremely helpful. But I knew this couldn't be evidential because we had to go the whole way around, and can take time. So I did that, and about 2 weeks later, I got a call in the middle of the night from Michael, the sergeant in New South Wales. And he says, yeah, I went to that oasis.com and have all the information. When you log on to a new site, you'll always get the log on at IP. So when you first join Facebook, the log on at IP will be there, and then the last few connections you have.
Mm-hmm.
So when he rang me, says, I got down log on of IP, the log on IP and the last IP log on. So what house or what was the network talking to this the time Johnny was talking? So Johnny put in his name, address, this is Johnny. So he read it out and couldn't believe it. It was the .861 we were looking for.
The dynamic one.
Yeah, the dynamic one.
Mm.
So this IP address that we couldn't say was 3 Roxburgh Heights, Johnny is now using it to go on to the dating site at 9:30.
The same address as the goodbye message from Charlotte.
The goodbye message, yeah.
Mm.
So we now could say that the goodbye message was at the same address where Johnny was now logging on to this dating site at 9:30 in the morning.
Mm.
And it was a real eureka moment for us, because now it was a big hurdle that we needed to get over. And now we could get over the hurdle. So I went back to digital forensics and I said, take that computer, examine it again and see how many times it used the .86 IP address. And if they were able to come back and say, yeah, it had used it all that day. So now we could say the same IP address as the Charlotte's goodbye message.
Yeah.
So this was brilliant, but we still had no body. Still didn't know what happened to Charlotte.
Yeah.
When you're searching for somebody that's been murdered and there's no body, there's an art behind it, or let's say not science behind it, but because of all the bodies they found, they now have a model drawn up and it'd be a matrix. So there's certain things that will happen. It'll have to be an area that's known to them, where they're disposing the body. They're never going to carry it over an obstacle like a wall or a gate.
Mm-hmm.
It's generally not going to be overlooked, so anybody see what they're doing. And there's all these kind of questions,
accessibility factors.
Yeah, that you look at before, like, will we look here for the body? No, because it's overlooked, or from the road it's too far in. There's multiple things, but one that was always coming up top of the list was down by this old quarry lake in Blackwater Town.
Mm-hmm.
And we searched it, brought cadaver dogs down, and cadaver dogs will smell the gases being emitted by the human body. They can, even if the body's underwater on a boat, the dogs will still smell it, and it's brilliant. Wow. What they can do. So
But why was this area important?
Because there was photographs on his phone being down that area all the time.
Mm.
We know he frequented that area.
They were walking the dog down there.
He was walking the dog down there because he was the one taking the photographs.
Mm-hmm.
So this was after Charlotte had gone. So it's a massive lake. They've been quarrying out of it. Now it's naturally flooded, and it's like cliff edges all around it. So on one of the cliff edges, the dog indicates on the ground for human remains. So we get diggers in, dig, but you see as soon as you start digging with the roots and rock underneath, there's nobody buried there. But how is the dog still getting a scent? So we searched, and we couldn't find her in this area where the dog had indicated. And it's a massive area, wooded area. It's an old tow path, and then the quarry lake. So we had no success at that, but we knew the dog had indicated. So is she in the water? That's something
The dog is trained for a dead body, or the dog is trained to smell her?
A dead body.
A dead body.
So a dead body will release gases over time, and the dog will.
So at some point, a dead body has been there.
That's what the dog indicated.
Mm.
But is the dog right or not? The dog indicated there, and the dog handler tells us, listen, he's given slight indications. Yeah. So we knew there's possibly further work to be done at that. We then were looking at the cell site and how Charlotte's phone had moved. So when Johnny was saying Charlotte left on the night of the 31st into the 1st, then on the 4th of June, or 3rd, 4th of June, he's in work, and he gets a message in work saying Charlotte's coming to the house and she's going to pick up her clothes and leave.
Some stuff, yeah.
Johnny comes back home and stuff is gone. Then he gets another message later on that week, a number of days later, same thing. I'm coming to my house. I'm coming back to the house to collect stuff, and I'll leave the keys this time. Comes back and the stuff is gone and the keys are left. And her phone was, I think, once more on the network in around this area. But Johnny's saying he's in work and Charlotte comes to the house. But when you look at cell sites and how cell sites will monitor a phone, if this is the cell, there's 3 parts to the cell which go out in a 360 degrees. So if the part coming out here, that's one cell, to be another cell coming out here. So it'll go for 20 kilometers in a straight line unless it meets a hill or the signal can't go any further. But Johnny's work is covered by this cell. Johnny's house is covered by this cell.
Mm-hmm.
So when he's in work, he can't be on the same cell as the home one.
Mm.
But Charlotte's messages were sent from this cell. He received the messages in this cell,
mm-hmm.
which means he was at home. He couldn't have been in work. So each time he sent those messages or he received those messages, he was at home. So
with
he would
the
2 phones, and the 2 phones were in that network. We can't say he's at home. He's in this cell area.
Yeah.
He's not in the cell area for work.
That he said he was in.
So he's at home when he receives these messages. I'll be calling home. I'll be calling back to the house to collect my belongings. He's at home.
Mm.
Her phone is also in the same cell. So this one provable lie we can get him on if we got him into court. That, no, this is wrong. You were at home when you received those messages. Now, somebody may say, it's 6 months later when he made the statement, oh, did he forget? But it was a big red flag for us. Well, what is happening?
And where is all of her stuff?
We don't know because there was limited stuff there. Where was our engagement ring as well? That's...
So he was trying to sell it. So didn't
exactly.
He have it?
But we couldn't talk to him because now he's a suspect.
Mm.
We can't, and we couldn't talk to anybody. We couldn't go talking to friends, relations. The family knew we were looking at it, but we didn't want to alert Johnny that we were looking into it. And it was just becoming more and more bizarre, but also it was leading more to this, to him. All the other people we could rule out, but we couldn't rule out Johnny. So he's lying about the phone. When he's getting these text messages, he's actually at home. He's not in the office, or he's not in work.
Mm.
So it came up, we're going to have to make a decision on this with all the information we have, because we see on the 30th, she's travelling up and back from Belfast. We see her phone and car moving together. But on the 31st, that night, the 31st into the 1st, her life stops.
Mm.
So she's not on, her car doesn't move, her phone doesn't move out of the cell. And she or somebody has closed down her life, texting friends, I'll not be back, calling work, I'm not coming back. But she did not contact, she did not talk to anybody. It was either a text message or through Johnny doing this. So I briefed the public prosecution service about it, and they said, no, listen, it's no body murder. And they really weren't warming to this. So there's an excellent QC at the time, Kieran Murphy. He was an excellent barrister, senior counsel. So I met him, gave him the case, gave him the outline of what we had, all the evidence we had. And he said, no, it's a good case you have. So went back, and one of the best people you had in this investigation was an analyst, because what the analyst does is produces these mass documents which show you every contact the person has made, and briefs every statement made, every phone call to and from. And it's excellent piece of work. And what we needed for this was that type of information all in one document. And the analyst on it did an amazing job. But we still didn't have enough to take him to court, but we were getting there and we were getting close. So when we got all the cell site information through, we got the documents through, we got the IP addresses, and then we looked back at the blood in the house and got another view of the blood in the house. And what they were looking at is the blood had dripped down, and it's all in unusual places. It's not where you would naturally find blood. And it was Charlotte's blood also. And this is a big part of it. But all you can say is there's blood in the house. How did it get there? You can't say, because you don't know. And we don't have her body.
Yeah.
So met the PPS with all the evidence we had, and the Public Prosecution Service will never make a decision on a prosecution until all evidence is there, and you have to arrest somebody and see what they say during an interview before they'll make a final decision. But they'll give you an indication. And we went to them and we gave them all the evidence. Says, no, I don't think this is you have enough, or this isn't a viable case. And I said, well, your Queen's Counsel, or Kieran Murphy, one of your barristers, says we do have a bloody strong case. And when did you speak with him? And I said, well, I've spoken a number of weeks ago. He's the guy that's going to present it in court. He thinks it's a viable case, and you're telling me it's not. So in the end, they said, okay, we'll consider it. And they started to take it on board at that point. So then it came up to, what do we do when we arrest him? And it had to be a whole operation around it, because all these individuals we can see Johnny's talking to around the time of Charlotte's disappearance. What were those communications about? Look at all the things he bought coming up to it. What was he in B&Q for? Why did he buy a carpet cleaner? You've all these questions, but we couldn't do anything overtly until we arrested him. And also this sighting in Bradford. And what I started to look at was this guy Sharkey, who was coaching him in how to be a canoeist. He was now living in France. So I asked the French police, where was he at the time this phone call was made in Bradford? But the day before the phone call was made saying Charlotte is in Bradford, Sharkey's car travels north through France as if it's returning to England, and his sister lives in Bradford. So I was taking a leap, saying, right, somebody who knows Johnny has made this call, and I can see calls between Johnny and Sharkey around the time. So it's one of the few people. He's ringing him in France, and then Sharkey moves up and we see him traveling north into England. So it was taking a leap, but still we didn't know. So it was coming up to the time for the arrest. We still hadn't the engagement ring. So we put an appeal out. Does anybody know where this engagement ring is? Surprise, surprise. Johnny rings the police, says, I've got that engagement ring. And it was all orchestrated by us to try see would he talk. So police went around and he still had the engagement ring. And this is something that she's now left as well. As we could see, he's trying to sell it on the night she disappeared. We then started to do an appeal. So it was all public appeals, and went to the Cohannon Inn to put up posters about her disappearance. But the management time says, no, you can't put up posters because, it would upset people, Charlotte missing and people coming in trying to have their Sunday dinner. So we hired this trailer and put it across the road and got a big massive banner And so it's on the main thoroughfare with the number to call if you had any information around the disappearance of Charlotte Murray. You know, my attitude was, if you won't put the posters up there, we'll put one out on the main road outside. You know, because
and was that to try and antagonise Johnny?
You know, it wasn't trying to antagonise Johnny. It's she worked there. Yeah, probably was a bit to antagonise Johnny, but she worked there. You should have put it there, because that's the last place she'd worked and the last places she was seen, and people going in and out, staff going in and out may jog their memory.
May have known something.
Yeah. So this was all being put in place, and we got specialists in to ask or to discuss with them, and specialist interviewers, what way should we approach this. In fairness to the tier 5 interviewer we had, and he's the specialist interviewer in the team, Colin, he was brilliant at what he did, and I don't think they added anything to the party. We got other people to come in and look at the work we've done around searching for the body and other searches that could be done. So we kind of wrote back on the search, and for the moment, because we were focusing on the investigation side of it. So he was arrested, and then we had to go speak to everybody at that time, and then we got his current phone. So there wasn't much from his current phone, and all these people that he'd been speaking to, it was all explained away, and there was no real golden nuggets in this.
And do you search the house at that point?
Searched his other house. He's out of Roxburgh Heights at this place. He's back. He's moved somewhere else now at this point. But this was always going to be a circumstantial case, especially when you don't have the body. And what a circumstantial case is basing on evidence, in a sense, telling the story about the circumstances. This is what happened. This is where her phone was. You don't know. There's no knife. There's no scene. There's no hard evidence. It is circumstantial. And a circumstantial case is like an onion. I always compare, where each layer of the onion makes it really rock solid. But if you take a layer off, or one of those layers is rotten or weak, the case will ruin. So everything you were putting in this, you had to be rock solid and sure about that it wasn't going to be challenged and couldn't be challenged in court. So
how did Johnny seem in the interview?
To be honest, when I went and arrested him and went into the house when he was arrested, he looked like a beaten man. You know, he looked dishevelled, compared to what you'd seen of him before and photos. He just, it's like this had been living with him, to be honest, and this is what, he wasn't leading a healthy or good life at all. And it's not you felt sorry when you see this. His life had changed since Charlotte disappeared, but changed for the reasons that he knows why. When we got in and arrested him, got him into interview, and he would talk around when she disappeared and other things. We asked him all the questions about all the evidence we had, the images of what he was doing that night. I think he did no comment for a lot of the interviews. But he's sticking to his story that she was away. So what you do in the interview is let him tell his side of things, their agenda. Then when he tells you everything, then you put the police agenda at the other end. So, well, you've said she contacted you when you were in work, but we can show that's at home. You're looking for, you've got images of her sleeping with somebody else a week before, 10 days before she disappears. And
what did he say about that?
I can't remember what he said about that. But what we were really looking at is when she disappeared on the 31st, and this is where it challenged him was, you didn't go out looking for her. You didn't care. But when she was staying in McMahon's that night on the 20th, you were out at 4 o'clock in the morning with torches. But there was 2 people out. So we thought the other person out was this other guy, Brian. So went, asked him, says, were you out? Tell us how you walked back to the pub, or from the pub. Told us, and he went in, and Johnny rang, because you can see calls between himself and Johnny at 3 or 4 in the morning. And he's saying, yeah, Johnny said just Charlotte was missed. Did you go out of the house? No. So kept asking this because we knew it's him. We had a good idea it was him because the two of them were talking, and there's two people out looking for her. We couldn't say it was him. It was out, but there was somebody else out. And just purely by chance, we were talking to this woman. She'd been a taxi driver. And I said, when's the last time you saw Charlotte? And she was saying the last time she saw Charlotte, where she was, and a picture from Tesco's. And we were just finishing up talking to her, and he says, and is that the last time you saw her? She says, yeah, but I came home late one night in the taxi. It was early in the morning, and Brian stopped me with a torch, and he was out looking for Charlotte. And I was like, pardon? And I said, yeah, there's people out looking for Charlotte. I said, well, she's worked today. She says, well, it would have had to be in the 20th, because I don't work on the Friday. Didn't work late. Would have been working, it was the end of October. So now we had somebody putting the two of them out, looking for Johnny at that point, or looking for Charlotte. And that was totally different than the way out when she went on the 31st. When she disappeared, on the 31st, he didn't care. He wasn't.
Different actions from both of them. So Johnny and Brian were both out looking for her on the 20th. And then both of them don't bother to look for her on the 30th.
And Johnny doesn't even ring her. There's no calls. Nobody out looking for her. It's just totally different. So when went to the PPS, consult with the PPS as the interviewing's coming to an end, and at that point they say whether you can charge or not, and you have to get consent from the public prosecution service to charge for murder. And the interviews went on for 3 days. And I think it was the third day got the okay to charge him with murder, and there's no body, circumstantial case. Still had a lot of work to do, but got him charged, and it was really satisfying, to be able to tell the family, that we have somebody charged. It is a start, and what you want to do at that point then. Nobody else knows about this case until you go to court and you talk about it. So after getting charged, went to Strabane Court to connect him to the charge, and there wasn't a bail application. So I couldn't discuss the case. And this is where you discuss the case and it goes into the press, that then other people may come forward with information, but because you hadn't made a bail application, the judge doesn't ask for the circumstances of the case.
Why didn't he make a bail application?
Oh, sorry, it's only when he makes a bail application. So when he went to Strabane, I got into the box to charge him, or to connect him to the charge. So the judge will say, can you connect this individual to the charge? And I say, yes, I can. If he makes a bail application, then you give the circumstances to the judge of, this is why we charged him, and this is why we believe he shouldn't have bail. So he did make a bail application, so the circumstances were known, yet the press and all were there, but they know nothing else about it, so it doesn't go in the public domain. So 2 weeks later, he then wants a bail application. So then I'm right, and there's such a lot of stuff in the case. You're trying to get it all out here, but there's a lot of moving parts in it. So got into the box. The judge asked to outline the circumstances, and I just took my time outlining everything that had happened, how Charlotte had disappeared. And it was at that point that at the end, when bail was refused, that I just went over to the press and said, do you want that clarified, because it's very confusing? And like, yeah, and just to clarify certain points. And that point, when you got the press on side, listen, these are all the points, whereas most police would go, oh, don't talk to the press. But you've discussed it in open court. You can go over and clarify things for them. And that's what I did. And then there was a lot of press coverage about it. And then other witnesses started to come forward as well when it became when it became known.